From spooky legends past, down through generations, to haunted locations that hold a ghostly past. Come one, come all, come finders and seekers. Hear the creepy side of NEPA.
Welcome to the creepy side of NEPA. I am Dan Kosloski. Thanks for joining us here on our second episode of the 2024 Halloween season. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, or follow the creepy side of NEPA on whichever podcast platform that you're listening to us on. And also be sure to follow WNEP's Creepy Side of NEPA on Facebook. That is the best way to always be informed on the latest show information. Do you have a story you would like to share on the creepy side of NEPA? Or maybe you have an idea for a topic on an upcoming episode? Email us at ghost@wnep.com. We'd love to hear from you. Joining us this week is Jamie Gatts from Haunt Coffee, a local coffee shop in Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania, with a paranormal twist. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be with you.
Great to have you. Like I was telling you earlier, we spoke for a few minutes. When I was doing some research trying to find new ideas for upcoming episodes in October, I came across Haunt Coffee, and I never heard of it before.
So we're newer. We just opened in January. It's been great so far. I've got to meet so many great people, share what everybody's telling me is delicious coffee. So, it's just been a great experience so far.
So besides the name Haunt Coffee, what sort of separates you from your average coffee shop?
So we do a lot of events. A lot of them are focused on different paranormal things. We do horror movie trivia, which has been a lot of fun. We do just all sorts of different things. We have different classes. So we kind of have tried to make it a place to hang out for people who are into the paranormal.
So sort of hang out. I'm sure some people share stories there.
Absolutely. So every Friday night we have Friday Night Fright Night, where people can come and share their real paranormal stories, experiences. We've had some phenomenal stories so far, and we're always looking for new ones. And I think it's been really fun for me because there will be customers who come in a few times and I get to know them, and then they come to a Fright Night and they just have the craziest story. And I'm thinking, how have you not told me this already?
Yeah, usually someone doesn't share their stories right off the bat.
Yes.
That's sort of what I've seen anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another reason why I wanted a place like this, because when you have these experiences, you have these things happen, you're not sure who you can tell. You're not sure who's going to think that you're crazy when you tell your story. So it was just for me to have a place where people who are into this or who have had experiences could come out. They can tell their stories without judgment and know that, hey, maybe I could even find out a little bit more about why this happened or get some insight into other people who have had similar things happen.
Yeah, and I know I've said this many times on prior episodes. The one thing that I've noticed, even if people don't believe in the paranormal, they still have that one story that happened to them in the past that they can't explain.
Yes, 1,000%. I found that all the time. We live in an area that is so rich in history and so diverse in experiences. And you've had so many different people immigrate to the area over the years. Different cultures have mixed here. Trying to think of a good word here.
That's okay.
It's just kind of been this wonderful, mixing bowl, so to speak, for the paranormal. I've had people tell me about hearing Polish in their attic. I've had people tell me about hearing miners walking in their basement. You have stories about Native Americans who are unhappy about something, in somebody's yard, or maybe they built something, in an area that they're not happy about. And then having people come in, explain to them, do an investigation, tell them what happened. And, now they're learning about another culture that they probably wouldn't have in their, maybe burning some tobacco or different things like that to kind of sort the situation out.
I definitely agree with you 100% on all that.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get too far down the paranormal rabbit hole here, I want to ask, when somebody walks into Haunt Coffee, what could they expect? What does the place look like?
So I purposely didn't want to go too spooky because I also wanted it to be a place where children felt comfortable. So I kind of want a little bit of the Haunted Mansion.
Okay.
I do have a lot of antique furniture. I have a lot of different antique, and specifically I was looking for Victorian era, different items. And I am really connected with the history of the area. So we do have a wall that looks like a mausoleum, and all the names on the wall are local people who it has been documented have haunted and been seen, in the afterlife. Cool. And, even too, because I do have 3 names on there that are associated with buildings at Wilkes University that were once private residents. And I have students come in from Wilkes University and they see the names, and then it seems like they all have a story about something. Maybe they were late studying in one of the buildings and they hear footsteps, it sounds like furniture being dragged. So it's just been a really great way too to connect the history of the area with the paranormal.
Yeah, I know we had one of the tour guides on from prior episode, the downtown ghost tour. I know a lot of their locations were huddled right around the Wilkes University area, and a lot of the buildings were part of the campus.
Yes, yeah. I think we take for granted sometimes how old and how different the landscape of Wilkes-Barre has become over the years. And, just even listening to your show, because I listen quite frequently.
Well, thank you.
And, learning just about how the different areas used to be structured that we don't think about today. And that these things happened, maybe 150 years ago in this space that today is an office building or, a school or what have you. And it's just amazing to see how when you look at the history and you look at the experiences, it really is like sometimes history's playing out all over again and we don't know why, but there's a reason for it.
Yep, because 100 years ago, some buildings used to be even like a department store, and now they're apartments. You never know what is the next purpose for that property.
Yes, absolutely. And we are one of the older areas in the country. And I just think that, that history and it lends itself to these great experiences. Well, I think they're great experiences. Some people probably don't.
Now, at your shop, what are some of your specialty drinks that you're known for?
So we definitely have some flavor combinations that people probably have never seen before. We do change. We have a seasonal menu that changes, with each season, and we do a weekend special every weekend. But our most popular drink of our regular spooky drink menu is our Phantom, which is brown sugar, cinnamon, caramel, and chocolate. And that one is definitely a fan favorite. Now, we can also get away with doing pumpkin spice all year because we got those spooky vibes. We do have the Salem, which is pumpkin spice, caramel. That one it's a phenomenal. Oh, and butter pecans in there too. But that one is just a phenomenal drink. The weekend specials, they're different every week. We just got done with August, and we just did Hitchcock month in honor of the Master of Suspense. And we did every weekend, we did a different movie as a drink.
I love how you have the different themes and different events happening throughout the months.
Yeah. Yep. We try to make it a place, that you want to hang out and a place to hang out with your friends. And, it's not so spooky either that you feel like, oh, I don't want to be in here for a long time. It's actually, I get complimented a lot that it's creepy, but so cute.
Yeah, it just has a little creepy twist to it.
Yep, exactly. And we do have a casket, which is on loan. We've had a lot of fun with that. We had a halfway to Halloween event in April, and we let people take their pictures in the casket. So that was a lot of fun. We do have, I have an Oracle board, so it's a little bit older than a Ouija board, and there's a lot of people who are scared of that. But I always tell everybody the only reason it's in here is because the person I bought it from said that it was actually broke and the planchette should not slide if you try to use it. That's the only reason it's allowed in here. And a lot of people too, I have some older dolls that, might look a little bit creepy, that those also kind of sometimes will catch people off guard, but nothing in here has done anything malicious yet.
Yet. Now, just in case any of our listeners are new to your coffee shop, just like I was just hearing about it, where are you guys located and what are your hours?
So we are on 309 on Wilkes Barre Township Boulevard, right next to the Big Cow. So if you know where the Big Cow is.
Okay, I know right where that is.
Yep, we're right next to it. And we are open every day except for Wednesday. And Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we're open from 9 to 7. And then Friday and Saturday, we're open from 9 to 9.
Now, here's the question I've been waiting to ask.
Okay.
Since you have the paranormal theme at your coffee shop, have you have any personal paranormal experiences?
So I grew up hearing paranormal stories. When I was born, my parents actually lived in a haunted apartment. So my whole life I heard about these stories, and I was always drawn to the paranormal, and I was never scared of it because to me it was just part of, ghosts are real. And I remember, I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, being down in my grandmother's basement, seeing what's down there. And there was a book, and it was photographs of ghosts. And it was real ghosts, real photographs. And I was so excited. I remember running upstairs and asking my grandmother if I could keep the book. And of course she said yes. From there, my love of the paranormal started. And then, the experiences kind of started. And, there's been some, I would say, wonderful family visitations that I've had. In fact, my dad died when I was 18. He never got to meet my husband. He never got to meet my kids. But it was about 2 weeks after I met my husband, and I had a dream where my dad came to me, and it was so real. I would swear on a stack of Bibles it was real. And he told me that everything was going to be okay now. So I kind of knew my father approved of my husband. There was that.
Oh.
We lived in a creepy house where things would tend to happen, and they would only happen to me and nobody else.
Nobody else in the family?
No. My husband never had any experiences. My kids never did. But I very clearly remember coming home one day, and it was before our kids were born, and we had a puppy. And he was in the hallway sniffing at the vent on the floor. So I assumed there was a bug there, and I go over, and I'm trying to see what he's looking at. And I hear 2 men talking in the basement beneath my feet. And I grabbed the puppy, ran out, threw him in the car. I always kept the lights on in the basement because it was creepy. So I could see into the house from, outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, and there is nobody. There is not a soul in that basement. The house is completely empty. And I thought, well, I'm not going back in there alone. So I waited for my husband to get home. And of course, he's like, I don't know what you heard, but it wasn't this. It was probably like, the TV was on and you didn't know it. I'm like, I looked, I know it wasn't on. So there was stuff like that. I would hear knocking, and it just always seemed to be something that was just trying to annoy me a little bit. You get up
just enough to let you know it's there.
Exactly. So there's definitely been things like that have happened to me. And, the family visitations are just so wonderful when they happen. And I think, too, even with our Friday Night Fright Night, I get so many stories from people who have been visited by their family. And I think that's probably my favorite side of the paranormal, that reassurance from loved ones. And the fact that these experiences do bring people closure, and they do bring people, a sense of, okay, they're okay, so I can be okay.
Yeah, I agree. That is sort of the better side of this whole paranormal thing. As I'm listening to a bunch of stories, as you do also at the coffee shop, I don't really hear too many evil, malicious stories. You might hear of a prankster pulling some pranks on somebody, a ghost, a spirit, or a family member visiting back, but you don't really hear too much of the real malicious stuff.
No, the majority of the stories that we hear really are either family or you get sometimes a few stories about them seeing somebody from a different time. We've had a couple people who have had a doppelganger experience, which is a lot of fun too, because that is just something that intrigues me, how that works. And when you're seeing a living person and there's just something a little bit off about them,
I have heard a couple of those stories in the past, but I never really talked to somebody personally who had an experience like that.
Yeah, I've heard a couple stories like that, especially too, where they're insisting that they're getting called by a family member, and then they go check and that family member is not there. And then they'll say, hey, what did you want? You yelled for me. I'm like, I didn't yell for you. Like, I just came in from outside or something, just great stories like that. There's just been such a variety of stories. And in fact, we've even gotten some footage that we've taken some time to review as a group in our Friday Night Fright Nights. And we have a video that we've watched probably 15 times. And we just absolutely cannot come up with any sort of reason why we're seeing what we're seeing in this video. And unfortunately, this was kind of a video that the person who had it didn't want to personally share it, but they gave permission for somebody else to share it just to get some insight, because they had some negative feedback when they did try to show it to people personally. So, if somebody's like, hey, I got the place to take this to.
Yeah, and that's always the best when you have some kind of evidence to back up your story or experience.
Absolutely. Because it gives you that little bit of, see, I told you so. This is really happening.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So what inspired you really to go into the whole paranormal coffee shop?
Oh, well, it definitely is a love of the paranormal. But as much as I love watching the shows where people go on ghost hunts and ghost investigations, I was never able to do that, just the way my life was. And I just wanted a place where you could kind of feel almost like you were in a, like if you were in a podcast where you hear the stories, but then you also get to interact with the people telling the stories, and you get to interact and, with a whole bunch of different kind of aspects of the paranormal, and maybe learn about stuff you hadn't known. So for me, I wanted a place that was definitely going to bring people together in the paranormal community, but also people who maybe aren't into the paranormal, which is what we find a lot. I have so many people who come in and they say, well, I don't really believe in ghosts, but
exactly. They all have that one story.
They all have that one story. And then I have people who just come in for the coffee because they love the coffee. For me personally, I am a child of the 90s. I grew up on 90s coffee house coffee, which is what I love. I think I was 11 when I asked my grandmother for my first espresso machine for Christmas, which of course she got me. She loved me. But I always loved this one style of coffee, and it's just getting harder and harder to find. So that is something that for me, I wanted to kind of just bring back to the coffee community, because it was the coffee that I fell in love with. So we use Italian espresso, which was kind of the original, what everybody loved. And I know that there's a lot of people that roast their own coffee, and I do get asked a lot if they do. And I don't, because to me, I'm not going to fix what to me isn't broken. I'm going to go with what I love. And that is exactly what I've done. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And even too, the amount of coffees that I've been able to come up with, I don't even know how I do it, but it's been, fun to even have some friends come in and, kind of work out some taste testing together. They get very excited when it's a new menu time, because they know there's going to be a day where they get a call, hey, can you stop in and do some taste testing? But yeah, I think, for me, I just wanted a place that people would want to hang out at and enjoy a little bit of spooky and a little bit of good coffee. And
I apologize if you mentioned this earlier, but when did you guys open?
We opened January 4th of this year.
Okay, so you guys are fairly new still.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, one more time. If anyone was interested in stopping by Haunt Coffee, where are you guys located at?
So we are on Route 309, Wilkes Barre Township Boulevard, right next to the Big Cow.
And do you guys have a Facebook page or website?
We do. You can find us at Haunt Coffee LLC on Facebook, and everything, our menus are posted there. All of our events get posted there. And if anybody wants to find out anything more, they're welcome to message us, and we'll, let them know whatever they want to know.
Okay, Jamie, I love sitting down talking with you this evening. I hope you all the best at Haunt Coffee. I might have to stop by one of these days.
Absolutely. We look forward to having you.
Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Creepy Side of NEPA. We hope you could join us next week for an all-new episode. Until then, enjoy The Creepy Side of NEPA.
This has been The Creepy Side of NEPA. If you have a spooky story that took place in northeastern or central Pennsylvania, send it to ghost@WNEP.com for your chance to share it on an upcoming episode. We're dying to hear from you.